I would like to start with is understand the mood of development and understand the mood of the hotel developers. The lockdown has left us, left the owners cash strapped. We are in a demand shock. The supply is trapped. Sudeep, what do you think is the mood like? Is it bravely optimistic or is it, ruefully pessimistic? What is it that you're experiencing?
So, I'll give you the standard consultant answer. We're not either end of the spectrum. So, we are cautiously optimistic is what I would say, right? Listen, I think it's difficult to be optimistic right now, optimistic from the near-term perspective to say, oh, listen, yeah, we're going to sign a lot of deals this year. No, but at the same time, it's not doom and gloom either, right? And I think there are two primary reasons for it. Number one, I think the industry's always been resilient. If you look at the history, SARS, MERS, I know this one is different, but it's always been resilient and it does bounce back, usually bounces back quicker than what one expects. Second, listen, we didn't start from zero. So there were deals in the pipeline before March 23rd. So those deals are still there. They may have slowed down a little bit. And some may have accelerated as well, depending on the ownership and their financing. So I think those deals are still there. And it's not like the well is dried up. So you are getting new inquiries as well. People do talk about, I do want to do hotel projects, because they've got their land or, some of the investments already made, or they've got other lines of businesses where they've got decent cash flow. We have a poultry farmer who's an owner, so he's under no stress, as an example. So I think that's why I say it's cautiously optimistic when things bounce back. And to give me a little more confidence on that, listen, we opened up some of our hotels on the 8th of June, and the momentum which some of it is carrying, although it's 4 days, is much brighter than what we'd anticipated on the 7th of June, right? Which is why I do add the word optimistic on it.
Good to hear that. Dhruv, what is it that you are hearing from your owners, the said, the unsaid, and in between?
I think from an owner's perspective, obviously, it's as challenging a time as it is for the operators. I think the encouraging part is that all the hotels that have been under construction pre-lockdown, today, if you look at in our pipeline, I would say majority of those under construction hotels that had come to a stall during the lockdown have resumed construction. Yes, there are problems at site. There are labor issues as of now at those sites. But that's very encouraging to see that construction has resumed. Obviously, I think those owners who were still at the planning stage of the hotel, or those who would have thought about building a hotel at this point in time, would defer that decision. That's quite likely. And that is quite understandable right now because there is so much distraction with their own core businesses that once they are able to fix those issues, then they'll be able to start construction of these projects which are at the planning stage.
Mudassir, you have a handsome pipeline of 61 hotels. What is it that your feel is on this subject?
I think, look, this is an unprecedented event. Let me go back to January. We had heard of COVID. I had traveled. In fact, I had gone to Mecca with my parents. There were people from all over the world. You didn't talk of COVID. I think no one saw that a crisis of this magnitude was coming our way. Initially people thought this was going to be like SARS, Ebola, MERS. It's going to have some kind of an impact, but then go away very short term. But since March, there was the shock that the economy went into a paralysis, and really no one knew how to come out of it because no one had prior experience. But as things have unfolded, the human instinct is to fight on, and the survival instinct has come out of it. And people are being innovative, and they are being cautiously optimistic. Look, at the end of the day, people develop hotels with a long-term horizon, and they go through different business cycles over their life. So people know it's a tough time, but like Sudeep said, it's not a gloom and doom scenario. People are stressed, no doubt. A lot of our owners are, the good thing is we haven't had cancellations, projects being delayed, definitely yes. But people want to fight on. They don't want to give up. They don't want to sell off their hotel so easily or put the projects on stall. So we have seen delays, deferrals, but no cancellations as such, which is fantastic. And the mood is cautiously optimistic. As Q1 for us was fantastic, was great, but it's been the opposite of that in terms of the mood. But people, I think generally Indians are fighters. They were not, and they're survivors. So I think we'll come out of this. It's going to take time, but we'll come out of this.
Okay. Balvinder, can you tell us what is the impact you are feeling on your under construction projects? Is it postpone? Is it cancel? Is it wait and watch? Is it keep constructing? What is it that you're hearing?
So, Anika, like everybody said, and I echo what Sudeep said, so it's not all gloom and doom. When I look at our confirmed pipelines, and we have been in touch with our own investors, partners, so there are different theories or different thought process depending on the stage of construction you are in. Like Dhruv said, if it was a pre-planning stage at the moment, I mean, clearly it's people are going to hit pause for now, and it's not because the project has an issue. It's just because everybody would intend to conserve their capital at this moment. Now, someone who has just started construction is, the financing is in place, brand management agreement, which is with us, is already there. We believe, and our conversation tell us that these guys are going to continue ahead with the construction. Typically, it's going to take 30, 35, 40 months before a hotel is operational. And all of us, I'm sure, are pretty confident that by that time, not only will be out of this crisis, but you will see a better business demands. And don't forget, see, also what is happening is more than the demand, of course, that's a primary concern. From a cost perspective, also, you'll see a lot of construction activity slowing down across industry in the country. That gives an opportunity to an owner to look at recalibrating his construction costs. He will be in a position to negotiate 10, 15, 12% share of a project cost. Think is pretty likely. So from that perspective, yes, I think from a development perspective, it is not all that bad because we are not looking at current scenario. Development is a medium and long term perspective. We're comfortable there.
Okay. Sameer, corroborating Balvinder's point on recalibration of development costs, since you wear the shoes of both an owning company and an operating company, what is your view on that?
Thanks, Anika. Certainly, see, people are. We may have personal views. I personally think the whole COVID situation has been slightly blown from the standpoint of how the stock markets have corrected, how people's appetite, but it just might come back to correct. That said, people who are actually investing money in hotel projects are being careful. They are cautious. We've had a couple of situations where things in a management contract, two of them, where they slowed down tremendously. We ourselves are in the process of doing a big palatial palace hotel in India, which we've put on hold for some time. In general, to go along with the board's view, we're a listed company. We have an independent board to go along with it and keep a tab on our capex for the next 1 year. Clearly, we ourselves are not, because with luxury, the thing is somewhere the specs are pretty defined and clear. But otherwise, just talking to people, some are really taking a very balanced view and saying, look, there may be certain room inventory which may not be needed, certain physical spaces in the hotel which may warrant a further discussion. Do we look at our restaurant designs in a different way? And to that extent, I think it's very, very reasonable that all the investors and developers are looking to review their plans. So, yeah, for the short term, there will be pain, but once people are back on that, I think it'll be better.
Amit, Hyatt is known for very large inventories and voluminous hotels. Do you see yourselves softening on the owners, say for a staggered opening or a phased opening, to give them some relief, especially in advanced under construction or brownfield projects?
Anika, yes, we are looking. Now, we were planning to open quite a few hotels this year, and every project is seeing at least 3 to 6 months delay. So some projects are definitely moving over to next year. And based on our conversation with the owners, they are saying that let's start with a limited inventory to start with. I mean, I would say uh, close to 60-70% of the total inventory, but with all the public areas, and then followed by the rest of the inventory. So we are looking at those cases as well in larger inventory hotels like 250, 300 hotels.
Sure. Sameer, coming back to you, almost 2 years back around this time, you reopened the iconic Oberoi Delhi with the master plan renovations of 2 years. Uh, how do you see renovation planning getting realigned in the future? How will you start assessing ROIs, IRRs, or EVAs when you're planning your next renovation? Are they going to be significantly deferred? Are they going to be pruned? How is it going to be?
Anika, we are taking a very, it's a case by case review. I'll give you an example. We had some renovation due, in the rooms and all in our Gurgaon property. We finally took a view that it's not worth doing it right now, although one could argue that you're shutting the property down now and it's the best time, but equally it's a large expenditure for the owner. So we decided to defer it to next year. On a couple of our own properties in Agra, in Jaipur, Udaipur, we're just finishing up Trident Udaipur. But Jaipur and Agra, we have two restaurants that we are renovating, and we took a view that that's something we can progress with, provided we had the workforce. We didn't do it right now, but as soon as things are a little bit more relaxed, we will. So clearly, it's a case by case basis where you say, look, how much is the amount of capital expenditure? Can it be done at a later stage? Now, we are very particular that we generally don't like to do. We like to shut down the hotel so that there's no interference. But trying to therefore we managed to, because the wing was separate and we could renovate half the inventory and the other half is due. So I think ultimately it's a long-term business. We as hotel owners, as asset owners, take that long-term view. We need to see the financial position. We are addressing that at the moment, and then get on with the business. And a few months here or there, but otherwise we'll just take a practical call.
Okay, I think it's also important to take stock of where we have reached rather than worry about where we have to reach by the end of the year, just to bring some upliftment of the mood. So let's take a moment to assess, what we have achieved YTD to 2020. Mudassir, what would you like to, in a line, highlight your organization's achievement?
Well, we've had fantastic 15 months since January 2019 till March 2020. We signed 20 hotels in South Asia, over 2,700 keys across 15 cities. So we were averaging at 1.3 hotels a month. And we covered India, we covered Bangladesh, we covered Sri Lanka, whole of South Asia, pretty much, whatever constitutes South Asia for us. So we covered that. That was a huge achievement till March. I mean, the credit goes to the whole team. There's Mr. Raju, who's a mentor for all of us. Zubin's a huge support. Our team in Singapore. Devashish and Aditya on the team, Diksha, they all do a fantastic job to consistently sign 1.3 hotels a month over a course of 15 months was a fantastic achievement.
Great. Balvinder, how about you?
So, Anika, for us, like Sudeep said, typically as a development team, before you get into a new year, you would generally have a battery of signed MOUs with you. So that's what has kept us busy in the last 6 months. So far, we have signed 2 binding contracts, and the work is in process for a few others. Now, yes, of course, few of the early stage pre-planning kind of leads, they are going down. But otherwise, I'm pretty confident that by the end of the year, we should be able to add a decent addition to our network pipeline.
Very good to hear that. Amit, how is it at your end? How was your performance before we were struck by lightning? You have to unmute.
Sorry about that. So last year was a pretty good year for us as well. We signed 12 odd deals with more than 2,200 rooms. This year, we haven't signed a single deal as yet, but I think in the second half, we're definitely looking at signing a few deals. So there are active discussions going on. Have there been new inquiries? Yes, in the last 2-3 months, we have seen some new inquiries as well. So, which is a positive sign, and we are optimistic that, of course, it won't be as good a year as 2019, but we'll surely have few deals on the board.
Yeah, I mean, if I was to just assess what we've done at our end, we've signed about 6 hotels. We've opened 3 hotels. So it was turning out to be a great year, and we were hoping to extrapolate it by the end of this year. Anyway, we're still hopeful because the number of queries, surprisingly so, has gone up. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. I would like to come back to Sameer. Sameer, amongst all this gloom and doom, you took out one great deal out of the bag in terms of signing at the Mayfair. So tell us a little bit about that. Do we have Sameer here? Okay, I'll come back to him with that question, and we'll just move on. In terms of what do you think, Sudeep, will be the pecking order of development reigniting in terms of the combination of leisure, business, urban, drivable, mid-market, upscale, luxury? What is that magic mantra or combination do you foresee to be the green shoots of recovery?
Listen, I think I'll follow operations a little bit, and everyone you talk to, it says, listen, the first order of business which is going to come back is going to be the domestic business, right? And for us at IG, that's not new because almost 3/4 of our business of our existing hotels is also domestic. So I don't see for us it's going to be a dramatically different shift in what's going to happen. Listen, being a little more optimistic and positive about it, we said, listen, our biggest, strategy in India is to grow our Holiday Inn family, which is a Holiday Inn Resorts and Holiday Inn Express. And, these times actually may give us a little bit of wins in our sales because those are, economically right in terms of the development costs, in terms of the price points for customers, in terms of flexibility that it can be in a city center, it can be at a staycation type location, it can be in a tier 2, tier 3 city, and so on. So we, I think, are we going to change our strategy, which was defined even, say, 3 years ago for India as a 10-year plan? I'm not sure that that's going to change it. If anything, which is going to change, maybe a little bit of the timing, right? So what we projected where we may be in 2025 or 2030, it may take a little longer to get there now, but the core is going to be the same. And I think, listen, regardless of where, what company you're in, I think it is in India, naturally you are going to be relying on the domestic business much more than anything else. Where I think there will be, there are 2 other areas where I think it's important to note. I think just given, and I think Sameer alluded to this a little bit, because of the standards and also because of the cost involved with luxury projects, if someone's contemplating a brand new luxury project, that may cause a pause in their thinking for a little bit. I don't think it's going to go away, but I think it's going to be a pause more than anything else. And the second thing, I think there will be a little bit of the shakeout, if you want to call it that. So, if you are a little subscale for whatever reason, and by that I mean subscale not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of everyone's going to conserve cash, and everyone's got limited amount of funds to do. If you're a bigger company, you have a lot more funds as an absolute relative to the smaller firms. And I think it's going to be critical that, and again, being a brand person, I always think that a branded company will have slight advantages here. And so you may see the acceleration of that consolidation and shakeout, which everyone's been talking about for the last 15 years, I guess, right? This may just push it a little bit more over the edge to say, okay, let's accelerate things here.
Okay. Mudassir, we heard Zubin talk about, how tier 2, 3, 4 cities will also kind of open out. So what in Radisson's view is the ideal combination for development to recover or concentrate on for the next 18 to 24 months for it to remain relevant?
We have a strong pipeline as considering the situation. Like Sudeep said, the well has not dried up, but the level of water has definitely decreased, and we are looking at a new normal. As I said, we got used to signing a lot of deals. I mean, last 15 months we were averaging 1.3. That's not going to happen anytime soon. That is for sure. But we'll have to get used to a new normal till the time the markets pick up. Again, growth, wherever there are opportunities is an area of growth. It's just very difficult to just pinpoint tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. India has so much potential with 1.3 billion people. Yes, I mean, not all of them can afford hotels, but even if it's 10% who can afford hotels, we are talking about 130 million, huge number. So for us, the whole of the country is very important across because we operate from upper upscale to mid-scale segment, and there is enough opportunity across pan-India for us. So there is no one particular market. We were one of the first ones to enter tertiary markets, and they are very good if you enter them the right way. There is a lot of potential there.
Sure. Balvinder, considering that your company operates across a diaspora of brands, right from Noesis to a Fairmont, it would be interesting to hear your views on what is the ideal combination your team will kind of concentrate on for the next few months.
So Anika, again, and building on from what Mudassir and Sudeep Jain, see, at the end of the day, the development is going to be 2 or 3 years out when you're going to look at a hotel coming back. So fundamentals remain the same. I mean, we have always focused into key markets, the right location. That would always be the primary objective. But definitely we're going to look forward, and it's not because of the current crisis. For the last 2-3 years, we've started concentrating a lot more on leisure travel as well. I believe that is where we see a lot of opportunities in the coming years, because not only from a new build perspective, you will see a lot of these good assets which are there, which probably need franchising or maybe a management contracts, and given this trend that we have of distribution, we can support them. So from a development perspective, it's all across the spectrum. If you talk about the segment of hotels, I personally believe mid-scale and economy would bounce back sooner. And of course, luxury needs a lot more capital. People are going to be a little skeptical, and they will be preserving capital for now before investing into leisure products. So that might take some time, but fast forward 2 years, we'll be back to same.
Okay. Sameer, you operate in a completely different orbital. What is your view?
In terms of, sorry, I missed it because I was out of the system for a few minutes.
Okay, no problem.
So you're talking about from a development standpoint or operation?
So in terms of the first green shoots of recovery from a development perspective, what is that ideal combination you foresee to come up? Is it urban, staycation, drive to destinations, or leisure, or business? What is it that you will bet on in the next 18 to 24 months from development perspective?
Development, you mean? Okay, I thought
new hotel development.
Sort of from a new hotel development. I mean, see, for us, quite frankly, the universe was pretty much the same earlier as it is now. I mean, if the location is extremely important, the target profile of the guest is very, very important. So are we going to really get into something which is unaffiliated, not different from what we've done before? Unlikely. The brand integrity and the standards and all those need to be followed. I think there'd be a little bit more flexibility if you were talking from a more mid-scale segment standpoint, where you could be a little bit more discretion to say, let's focus on a staycation or a drive holiday from Gurgaon within 2 hours driving time. From a luxury, it wouldn't work. And since our concentration is in two brands, one is a upscale brand and the other is luxury. I mean, I think what I'm going to look for, and I'm due to travel, maybe next week and the following week, is pretty much the similar land parcels I was looking at earlier. I don't think that'll change. Yes, in terms of business potential from an operation where people are coming back, there are all sorts of views. Yesterday we heard Sanjay Sethi talk about from Chalet that the domestic business demand will come back first. I can understand they have hotels all in the business segment, but generally where we are really thinking of the demand coming back first is definitely domestic leisure. We've got a huge amount of business inventory, but we just opened the Rajasthan hotel, which were then again the order to shut down came, but we still got about 10 rooms, 10% occupancy in on an average, I would say. So there is that huge pent-up demand for people to travel to these destinations, and I think people will want to, and they'll avoid all the flights, and logically we've talked about all of that. And then I think that's where the demand is from a user standpoint.
Sure. Mudassir, we are seeing pressure on ROIs, on GOPs. There is restrictive staff movement in terms of mobilization. Looking at the global situation, one may need to, procure locally. So, in light of these variables getting changed, do you see franchise moving in, more aggressively compared to managed? Do you see the balance reshifting a little?
I can talk from Radisson's perspective. We have focused ourselves on being a management company. And over the last 15 months, again, I can tell you over 90% of the contracts we signed are management contracts. We do not want to change that because of the COVID phenomenon. We are positive that we are here for the long term. It could be a 2-year recovery or whatever. I don't have a crystal ball, but our focus is management. And again, just because you're franchising a hotel does not mean that you want to compromise on the brand standard. Typically, in our portfolio, the managed hotels have a better GOP. Yes, this is an opportunity for the management team to probably get better at their management services and see how they can cut costs and be more efficient. But honestly, if you're just saying that you're going to be franchising a hotel and consequently they're going to have better GOPs, then you're either cutting costs or you're saying that the owners have better management capabilities. So since our focus has been on management over the last few years, I do not think so we're going to change that. Having said that, we have done selective franchising, and that would not change because of COVID. That is just a business strategy. And like Samir said, sometimes I think people have given too much into COVID, and now they are realizing probably that as long as you're taking care of yourself and following the WHO guidelines, you're going to be fine. And I think hopefully the whole world is focused on the cure for COVID, and that's a very good situation to be in, that the whole world is focused on one thing, and hopefully something good will come out of that very soon. So, but I don't think so. We as a company are going to change our focus because of this.
Sudeep, what about you? Do you see your mix, kind of evolving, or is it going to be the same? How is it?
So I think our mix may evolve, but not because of COVID. I think, I echo what Mudassir said. Listen, you've got to go back to why does someone want to franchise over managed, right? So either they believe that they can run the hotel and get more revenues, or they can believe that they can run it more cost effectively, or there may be some other reasons for them that maybe this hotel's been run by the family for multiple years and they need to try and keep running it, or they could be other factors, right? Now, we really have to go back and evaluate as to why the franchise. If someone says to me that they'll be able to run this hotel more efficiently, it's like me telling some owner who's been in the shirt making business that we'll be able to manufacture shirts at a much better thing than what you've been doing. So I think, to me, it doesn't mean that we're not open to franchising. We'll be open to franchising with the right partners who have the capability or can build the capability of running hotels efficiently and effectively, and have got some experience doing it, right? And if not, then our preferred model has been managed. It'll remain managed, right? However, again, coming back to our Holiday Inn Express family, say, for example, there may be people who have a regional strategy. They say, well, I want to develop 5 Holiday Inn Expresses in, northeast part of the country, and I want to run them all centrally from my central office sitting in Guwahati. There's nothing which we will help them through that and do the franchise. We've done that very effectively in China, where we have this franchise model that it starts as a management, and then over 3 years it transitions to become a franchise, where we've trained, if you will, an owner to go through that if required, both in the IHG way as well as in running efficient hotels. So, but again, is the stimulus to that COVID? No. Absolutely not. I think that is still part and parcel of our growth strategy, which we developed almost 3-4 years ago. And I think that will still remain. But again, it has to be cautiously planned and cautiously executed.
Sure. I mean, representing the largest franchisor in the world, I can say that I absolutely do agree with you. Franchise is not not a temporary strategy to tide over COVID. Having said that, I must admit, in the last 5 years, there has been a much greater traction in franchise. I see a lot of queries coming on. Owners are more confident of handling operations at their own end with our support. Of course, we run the operations here like a franchise, so there is a higher degree of support as compared to the rest of the continents. So yes, I do agree with you, Mudassir and Sudeep, that this is not an excuse to franchise. But having said that, we are seeing a significant increase in queries too. Taking a cue from, Sudeep, what you said in terms of conversions and Holiday Inn Express, and of course, you created one of the largest portfolios. You migrated, the Holiday Inn Expresses. I would like to throw the question open to the floor in terms of understanding. Do you feel more standalone hoteliers and hotel owners would like to brand at this point in time, considering the consistency of standards and health and hygiene orientation and so on that a brand brings to fore? Any one of you? Amit, would you like to take that?
Yes. No, I think it's a pretty good opportunity for brand hotels to consider looking at standalone hotels, because whatever said and done, people have more trust in brands, in the name, and they also understand that they have much stronger processes in place. For example, Hyatt, what we have rolled out is a global care and cleanliness commitment, and we have tied up with the Global Biorisk Advisory Council to ensure that there is proper cleanliness procedure as well as training going on, and every hotel will have a hygiene manager as well, which will become a very important part, at least in the next 12 to 18 months. So given one is that, and secondly, also I think loyalty program will also attract a lot more business initially to start with, to ramp up. And I think with the strong loyalty program, like World of Hyatt, we will be able to ramp up much faster. So definitely for standalone hotels, this is a good opportunity. Of course, making sure that the product definitely conforms to those brand standards.
Absolutely. Dhruv, what is Hilton's focus, as your global portfolio is reopening? What is it that you are busy doing in terms of, assuring your owners and providing the support to your hotels?
Right. Right now, the focus definitely is the safety of our guests and of our associates. And as we are reopening the hotels now, this is really important. Cleanliness and hygiene has always been very important to Hilton. And I think after this event, part of the recovery strategy is to come up with something that guests feel a higher sense of assurance. So we've come up with a Hilton Clean Stay initiative that you may have already heard of. And we will be rolling this out across to all our 6,100 hotels. And this Hilton Clean Stay initiative is something we have done in collaboration with RB, the makers of Lysol and Dettol, two very well-known brands, and also in consultation with Mayo Clinic, which is a leading hospital system in the US. So with this, we have come up with some kind of protocols for cleaning, for training programs, and a robust quality assurance program. And some of the key components of the Hilton Clean Stay will include things like a seal which will be placed outside the room, and which really means that the room has been thoroughly cleaned and not been accessed thereafter. So that's another layer of assurance that guests would have. Of course, there will be frequency of cleaning in public areas, and within the guest room there will be these 10 high-touch deep clean areas such as switches, thermostats, remote controls, handles that would need extra attention. And I think one of the other thing is that for Hilton, we've been pioneers in the digital key technology, and we will double down on that technology, which means that guests at even today, at across more than 75% of our hotels globally can use a Hilton Honors app on the mobile phone. They can select their room, they can check in, they can check out using that app. So it's absolutely contactless. And of course, they can access their guest room when they're staying at the hotel. So I think this is something which will really help in creating an environment for the guests and our associates that our hotels is a safe place for them to come and stay.
Great to hear that. Very reassuring. Sudeep, on another note, what is the economic relief that you have thought of for your owners as an act of solidarity in these moments of crisis?
So essentially, we've looked at it in different elements, and all of them pretty much targeted at two things: is making sure, as Dhruv and Amit said, listen, the one most critical factor to get the guests back in the hotel rooms is going to be confidence in hygiene and safety, right? So we've not compromised on that dimension. If anything, we'll have to spend more money there, thing. But it's been targeted at that. And number two, it's been targeted at conserving cash as much as possible, right? So it's really, I could bucketize them into three categories. One is, fee reliefs and I would say deferrals where necessary for owners, for them to conserve cash at this critical moment, right? And that's been tailored from geography to geography, sometimes hotel to hotel basis, but generically similar principles have been applied across the globe for us or across the region, right? Americas is different than China and then different than the rest of the world, but then typically within each one of them, we followed the same thing. Second thing is cutting back on the spending. So, whether that is capex, whether it is FF&E reserves, whether it is, investing more in the properties. We've provided as a brand the owners that, listen, you can defer that. It doesn't go away, but you can defer it. Listen, if you have the wherewithal to carry on with that, and you're welcome to do that, but we're not going to insist on doing that right away. And then the third biggest factor we're doing is on the recovery planning. The recovery planning is, and more specifically to Southwest Asia, what we've done is we've tried to plan the business for them on a month-to-month basis as a business. So, it's not about, we're going to reduce your cost by X% or Y% or Z%. We're saying this is where we are forecasting on a month-to-month where the business will be. And by the way, that forecast will likely change every month, right, in a regular cadence, because today I don't know. I can best guess what it can be for the next 12 months. Next month it could be a different scenario, given lockdown, second waves, non waves, etc., etc. And we're saying we are going to try and manage your cost to the level of business we expect, rather than say X% down, Y% down, right? So I think those are the three biggest things which we've applied, right? And there are lots of details under each one of them, but so far it's been received pretty well with the owners. It did take us some time to get to this. Some of those factors were quick, but I think I'm seeing that the reception of this from the owner group has been actually very good. And listen, we're in it together with them, so we have to partner with them. We have to be flexible. We have to cater, but at the same time, listen, just like them, all of us are facing the same cash issues either, right? And we rely on our fees and payment of our fees and our systems fees to actually keep the lights on for ourselves and our corporate offices. So I think we just have to strike the right balance such that, it's a survival of both sets of partners in this whole process.
Absolutely. Very reassuring, Sudeep. Thank you for that. Amit, while we were planning to have a full section on design, but due to paucity of time, I'll just direct one question to you. Do you see large weddings and large conferences not happening, because of which the area programs will get tighter in terms of the banqueting spaces and public areas? What recalibration do you see from a design perspective?
I don't see much recalibration from design perspective, because development is a long-term phenomenon, and of course when you make a hotel, you make it for 50 years plus years. So but this COVID thing, we're expecting hopefully another 12 months, 18 months max, we should be out of it. So you cannot change things as per that. But yes, in the current scenario, what's happening is there are conditions laid out by the government that you cannot have a gathering of more than 50 people. So a lot of residential weddings and conferences are either postponed, or if they're canceled, people are moving locally and doing these events. And in some cases, I've even heard that people are doing multiple events of 50 rather than doing one large gathering, which they can't do as per the guidelines. So I think we're trying to find different avenues as to how we can handle the current situation. But hopefully in the next 3 to 6 months, it will start to get better. And we'll see a little bit more larger gathering happening. And in the long term, of course, I think we'll be back to normal.
Okay, that should be reassuring for our architects and consultants that there is no changing happening in a hurry out here. We are coming to the close of this session, and I would like to consolidate it through a quick rapid fire on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is gloom and 10 is Zoom. Of course, Zoom is a utopian thought right now. How would you rate the next 12 months that are coming up for you yourself and your organizations? Amit, since we'll go alphabetical.
I'll take 6.5.
Okay. Balvinder?
7.
Okay, we're progressing. Dhruv?
I think for the next 12 months, I would say it's going to be around 5 to 6, but in the long term, I would keep it between 8 and 9.
Okay. Mudassir?
I'm going to go with what Dhruv said. 5 to 6 for the next 12 to 24 months, possibly up 24 months, and beyond that, 9.
Samir?
I'd be a little bit more, 6 to 7 maybe in the next 12 to 18 months. It's okay. Things will be back on. We'll be all good.
Sudeep?
I'm going last, so I'll change the answer a little bit. I'll say, my take is that I'll be -2 from where I was in February, right? But I'll be back to February in 24 months.
Fabulous, fabulous. Okay, last rapid fire question is, if you were getting on a jet plane tomorrow, which will be the first city you will go to? Amit?
I'm not getting on a jet plane.
Okay, whenever is the first time you're going, we want to know where the development is happening. What is on your mind? What is interesting you to be going there?
I think we
rapid fire.
Okay, Mumbai.
Okay. Balvinder.
Haven't given it a thought, but if I have to take a pick, Bangalore.
Okay. Dhruv.
I'll go on a holiday somewhere.
That's the best one.
Mudassir.
Bombay, provided I don't have to fly like an astronaut with all the PPE. It's difficult these days.
Sameer.
I'm due to go to Bangalore, so yeah, safe option.
Great. Sudeep, how about you?
For leisure, I think I agree with Dhruv. I'd probably go on a vacation, but I won't do it on a plane. I'd probably do it in the car, And then the second thing, for work, I'd probably go to the hotel which needs me the most in the short term, which that answer changes sort of on a week-to-week basis right now.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think that should give some insights to our audience on what is on your mind in terms of hotel development leaders. I hope you all enjoyed this session, my co-panelists. At least for once, a woman allowed a group of men to talk, so that should be a first for you all. I'm happy I had a role to play here. Thank you so much for your time, and we thoroughly enjoyed this discussion, and we do hope that the coming months are not as challenging as as has been in our minds. And once we keep walking through these months, we'll realize that they aren't going to be as gloomy as we were projecting them to be. So I wish good luck to all of you, to all of us here, to bring the industry back on track. Thank you, gentlemen.